The Reconstructions of the South by me, Mireia Flores. The Reconstruction of the South was something that we see in American history as a failure. Throughout this presentation, I will highlight the key elements of Reconstruction and how going into it overall that changed the fate of the South. President Johnson's plan for Reconstruction, the impact of Reconstruction had on the South, and the rise of white supremacy in the South and how it impacted lives of African Americans. President Andrew Johnson's plan, 10% of loyalty for men who voted in the 1860 elections. He granted immensity and returning land of those Confederates who voted for him. Confederate states were to uphold the 13th Amendment, and Johnson issued over 13,000 pardons during his time. President Andrew Johnson's plan continued. The Military Reconstruction Act was when the South was divided into 5 territories and was governed by Union leaders. The ratification of the 14th Amendment, allowing people born in the United States be granted citizenship. Ex-Confederates lost their citizenship by committing treason. This act protecting voting rights and physical safety of Americans. President Andrew Johnson's plan continued. The Freedmen Bureau Act was land confiscated was distributed to formerly enslaved people. The 15th Amendment was adopted in 1870, saying the United States should not deny anyone to vote due to race, color, or any other conditions. The ultimate failure of Reconstruction was due to white supremacy in the South wanting fast results and low cost budgets, ending in a short-term Reconstruction era. Positive impacts on the Reconstruction of the South. Southern state-funded public schools were first being introduced. Laws against racial discrimination were put into place, but also things like black codes were put into place by Southern states. U.S. citizenship overall ratification, allowing citizens born in the United States granted full citizenship. The impact of Reconstruction on the South continued. The building of transportation like railroads and other new jobs in bigger cities due to transportation. Much political progress for African Americans during this time of Reconstruction, having African Americans in office. There was also some negative impacts of Reconstruction on the South. White terrorist groups were attacking and murdering families. The rise of white supremacy was at its peak during Reconstruction, which would overall change the fate of African Americans in the South. The rise of white supremacy in the South. White supremacists and Southerners were angry due to African Americans' limited freedoms. Black codes were created. There was laws set into place to stop black people from voting. Groups like the KKK were on the rise. The rise of white supremacy continued. During the Reconstruction, white supremacist violence expanded, a dramatic drop in black voter turnout, and political progress was stunted due to white supremacy murdering and killing innocent black families. White supremacy in the South was one of the reasons why Reconstruction ended so early. The violence these white men created for black families just trying to create normal lives for themselves. Reconstruction was seen as a failure. Many Americans did fight for change, and race-based discrimination was on the rise after Reconstruction. Some say if Reconstruction continued to stop white supremacy, maybe things would be different today for African Americans. Many good resources can be found anywhere when looking up historical archives, secondary sources on all kinds of websites, textbook sources. Sources can really be found anywhere if you have the right engineering and tools. Make sure your resources are fact-based and they are easy to understand. Good resources can be found just about anywhere as long as you take the time to look.